Now, I have a love-hate relationship with Schiit. On the one hand, I want to like their products. Their design is striking with a cool, almost mechanical aesthetic. They have a bold, confident branding style which can feel a bit over the top at times, but I like that. But on the other hand, I've never reviewed a product that fully won me over. The Hel was okay-ish and the Fulle E is gathering dust somewhere on some shelf, and that should say enough. Adding to the challenge, getting in touch with them as a reviewer has been difficult. Despite sending open and detailed emails, I never received a reply. Now, I understand that they likely get high volumes of inquiries, but for a company that emphasizes on starting small, I would like to have seen at least some kind of engagement with a niche channel like mine. But every new device still deserves a fair chance. So for this review, I'm putting all my preconceptions aside. Today I'm listening with an open mind and judging solely on what it actually delivers. The Schiit Gunnr. Before we dive in, yes, things look and sound a bit different maybe. I'm testing a new camera and new mics. It wasn't that I was unhappy with the old setup, I just wanted to improve that part of the channel as well. The only downside is the old webcam hid a lot of skin imperfections. Now you can see every stubborn hair of my beard and so if you have any useful tips, please feel free to drop them below. Alright, so the Schiit Gunnr. It's a newish, game-focused digital to analog, analog to digital converter within the 200 price range. And the big question is it actually an upgrade of the Schiit Hel 2E, which I reviewed earlier? Now back then I wasn't too impressed. It wasn't terrible, it was just meh. A bit too expensive for what you got and not delivering the performance I expected at that price. So when the Gunnr arrived, my hopes were pretty high. The Schiit also has that clean industrial design that's both functional and distinctive Schiit. On top you can see the large volume knob that feels very solid. On the front panel you will find the headphone output, mic input, a gain select with 3 positions, negative, low and high, letting you adjust the output to suit different headphones or gear. Then there's the option to add additional processing, which turns up the width and presence, followed by 2 knobs where you can adjust this. On the right you will find the input select being USB or an optical input. Moving to the back panel you will see the USB input, the optical input, the power switch, a preamp output and an input for an external power supply, or a wall wart like Schiit likes to call it. In reality it's just a generic power supply with the Schiit name slapped onto it. It works perfectly over USB when you're using a PC, but if you're powering it from a phone, things might not behave correctly. I particularly like the on-off switch, something that a lot of other manufacturers seem to have forgotten. Of course, the exterior looks great, but you wouldn't be here if you didn't expect me to dive deep into the tech, which for me is also the far more interesting part, the interior. Inside, the Gunnr is neatly arranged and looks properly engineered. The main chips are the USB receiver in the form of the C-Media CM6635. There's a digital to analog converter or DAC, which is the ESS 9018. And there's an output stage in the form of the robust TI OPA 1656. Now I'll tell you why this matters in just a minute. So at the heart of the Gunnr is the C-Media CM6635 USB receiver running on custom firmware. So why use custom firmware at all? Well, custom firmware is there to unlock features that standard firmware just doesn't offer. Things like a higher sample rate support, tighter clock management, or better compatibility with high-end digital to analog converters and amps. In the case of the Gunnr, the firmware likely optimizes data flow to the digital to analog converter, which is key for clean, accurate sound. But to be fair, that's just an educated guess. The digital to analog converter inside is the ESS 9018, a 32-bit hyperstream design known for its low distortion and high signal-to-noise ratio. The ES 9018 is reliable, affordable and proven. It delivers excellent performance without the premium cost of a flagship DAC. And that makes this sense for this product at this price range. The hyperstream I mentioned is part of ESS proprietary digital to analog converter architecture, designed to reduce jitter and improve dynamic range. It uses something called a time domain jitter eliminator, which basically means that it keeps the timing of this digital signal ultra stable. A big part of why this digital to analog converter can sound so clean. The ES 9018 uses the original Hyperstream implementation, not the newer Hyperstream 4 found in current ESS chips. Now, the 9018 has been around for a while. The ES 9018 series first showed up in 2009. Now, I have to admit, I'm a bit turned off by Schiit choosing an aging digital to analog converter when newer and better options are available. Also, this choice, the ES 9018 paired with the CM6635, isn't new for Schiit. In fact, it's the same core combination that they've used in several other of their smaller digital to analog converters, like the Hel E and the Full E. It's a proven, reliable setup, and clearly one that Schiit is comfortable with. But at this point, it's starting to feel a bit similar. It's as if Schiit keeps refining the same foundation rather than reinventing it. Now, I have two explanations for that. Either they still have a good supply of ES 1918s in inventory, maybe because of the AKM supply problem a couple of years ago, and they're still soldering until it just runs out. Or maybe they're just a bit lazy and don't want to redesign. Now, I'm leaning towards the latter because it feels like the Schiit gaming decks get external refreshes every few years, while the internals largely stay the same. In my opinion, more than enough time to clear out the inventory, I'd say. Now, to be clear, again, this is all speculation, not confirmed by Schiit. Earlier, I talked about the output stage, the so-called IV stage. Now, this part is handled by the Texas Instruments LM4562 op-amp, which takes this very tiny current coming out of the deck and turns it into a clean, usable voltage. From there, the signal goes through an OPA 1654 op-amp based filter stage that removes any remaining noise and smooths out the response. Think of it like a small trickle of water being turned into a steady pressurized stream. That's what makes this final output clean, accurate and ready to be listened to. For even more demanding headphones or amplifiers, the Gunnr can give even more power headroom if needed. This power amplification is handled by the TI OPA 1656, using 4 amp stages per channel. Basically, this boost is what turns that steady pressurized stream into something with real force behind it. And this is how the 3 gain stages on the front function. Negative and low modes use the TI OPA 1654 stage, giving clean controlled output for sensitive IEMs and most headphones. The high mode, especially when paired with the external brick, engages the more powerful TI OPA 1656, the 4 stages per channel. providing that extra headroom for high impedance headphones or driving another amplifier. It's a thoughtful design that ensures that the Gunnr adapts to almost any listening setup while keeping the sound clean and precise. While the Gunnr and the older Hel 2E use almost identical components, the Hel 2E actually measures cleaner in every area. It has a lower noise floor, about 7-8 decibels better, a higher dynamic range, less harmonic distortion. The Gunnr stereo crosstalk is also slightly worse. The biggest shock came from the external power brick. You'd expect it to make things cleaner. I mean, it's supposed to supply a more stable power, but it actually made the results worse. The noise floor went up, the signal separation went down, which are both bad things. Now, when I unplugged the power brick, I ran the Gunnr purely on USB power, and things improved significantly. Noise dropped, crosstalk improved, and the overall measurements looked far more consistent. To summarize, the Gunnr doesn't perform badly at all in these ride mark tests. Absolutely not. It's a solid performer. It just doesn't quite measure as clean as its predecessor. And for a brand like Schiit, that's disappointing. Listening to the Gunnr next to the Hel 2E confirms what the measurements already suggested. Both sound excellent, deliver clean, detailed and well-balanced audio, but they don't sound identical. The Gunnr pushes everything a bit closer towards you. It's tighter, it's focused, it keeps sounds pinned right in the center. And the Hel 2E on the other hand feels more open. It gives more width and separation between the instruments, making the overall mix feel airier. Because of the same digital to analog converter, neither adds color or boosts any part of the frequency response. They're both neutral, but their presentation is different. The Gunnr has a more monitor character to it, clear, precise, very direct. And that approach actually works really well for gaming. Positional cues pop out a bit more clearly, and it's easier to pinpoint footsteps or gunfire without the soundstage getting in the way. It keeps your focus locked straight ahead. Perfect for competitive play or when you want to track the action precisely. The Hel 2E, meanwhile, feels a bit more natural for everyday listening. The extra width makes music and cinematic games sound more immersive, less confined to the center. So while the Gunnr wins on precision and focus, the Hel 2E feels easier on the ears, especially for those longer sessions. Different tools for slightly different priorities. Both good, but tuned to different kinds of listening. And now for my conclusion. After all the testing, retesting and the minor headaches, the Gunnr ends up feeling like just another version of the Hel 2E, albeit one that performs slightly worse in the major measurements. Of course, it looks cool, solid and very Schiit. It also performs kinda okay. It's certainly not a bad digital to analog converter, but it's not an upgrade. In raw performance, the predecessor, the Hel 2E, still holds the edge. It's curious that with nearly identical components, the Gunnr measurements came out slightly worse. Also, the Gunnr's own power brick can actually make things worse. Running it on USB alone produces a cleaner, quieter result. For a company that prides itself on focusing on those fundamentals, this is puzzling to me. It's still solid shit, but in a way that leaves you scratching your head. So, should you get one? Well, probably not. I'm still leaning more towards the Fosi K7, which I reviewed some time ago. It offers better components, newer components, more options like Bluetooth, optical, coax, and even a small display, and likely even better audio quality. For me, that makes it a stronger choice in the €200 price range. The Gunnr is solid shit, but in a way that shows that shit sometimes can make a mess. And with this ending, I would like to thank you for making it all the way to the end of this video, and I'd like to see you in the next one. See you then, bye bye!